Hey Dude,
The 90s Called,
with Christine Taylor and David Lascher.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Hey Dude, The 90s Called. I am one of your co-hosts, Christine.
Hi, Christine. I'm your other co-host, David.
Hi, David, on the East Coast, David, in a new location.
Oh my goodness.
For a few days. We're not going to say anything while you're here.
Yeah, I'm here for a very exciting reason. I think our audience will be very psyched for what we're doing here.
But how about the day you got?
I walked from 72nd and Madison back to up 83rd and, East End. But it is the most beautiful day in New York I think I've ever seen.
It's literally the most gorgeous day in the whole year. So thank you for bringing us the beautiful weather. Very exciting.
How have you been? What's going on with you?
Hey, listen, you were flying during that cool eclipse. I know there's a lot of people who are like, is the eclipse that cool? Who cares? I got the glasses. I stood outside and I was blown away by it. It was so cool.
Did it go dark here?
I mean, not as dark as Ben said. He was like, I kind of was hoping it would get darker. It just went to that twilight dark in the middle of the day moment. And then it started to come back around. But it was because it was a beautiful sunny day. It was a little chilly, but a little teeny cloud cover. But I mean, it was so cool.
Did you wear the glasses?
Yes, I put on the glasses and I bought them for the family and everybody. We were all in different places. So we were all just taking selfies and sending each other selfie shots.
Well, I'll tell you, my son, Casey, Casey's in Austin, which was supposedly the best place to see it. And he sent us a video. Yeah. It was around midday, completely dark, like it was nighttime.
Wow. See, that's where you get that's so crazy.
It was insane. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
It was really cool. I mean, it's that thing that you think you're like, okay, I'm going to get the glasses. And then you just see it. And it's just this, it's pretty awe-inspiring. I thought it was pretty amazing. And the next one isn't until 2044. So.
Right. So you'll remember where you were.
Yes.
And you went outside and saw it. Yeah.
Exactly.
I was on the plane and the captain came on and said, listen, we're traveling past the eclipse right now. You won't be able to see it, but we have something special for you. And on all of everybody's, Wi-Fi, they played Total Eclipse of the Heart by...
Yes, exactly. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I feel like that song got the most play in the last couple of days. But anyway, I want to thank you because you have booked our guest today. And and our audience has been asking for this guest to be on for quite some time in the comments that I've been looking at. So would you like to introduce him? I know he's in the waiting room.
Yeah, I will just tell our audience, Michael Stoyanov, who I worked on for 3 years on the show Blossom. He was on for all 5 years, but he's not only one of my best friends, but one of the funniest, coolest, wittiest people that I know. And he's a writer, he's an actor, he's a real estate investor. He's just one of the greatest guys. So yeah, let's welcome in Michael Stoyanov.
Oh, hey.
You haven't aged. You look awesome.
Look at you.
I swear to God, you look great.
I bet you say that to all the 90s stars.
Christine, I'll tell you this. Mike and I took a boxing class a couple days ago, and we were partners, and he's in tip-top shape. He's fitness.
Too kind. It was fun. That was a fun class. But I feel like I literally, how Google or whoever, someone on the internet is like, hey, here's some pictures of you from 10 years ago.
Oh, boy.
He sent me one yesterday, and I'm like, you bastards. How dare you?
No.
I'm depressed all day.
And have you found, and I was just talking about this with someone, that so let's say 10 years. I mean, for all of us, we can go back 30 years, and there's lots of documentation of that, too. But, even 10 years ago, it's I remember feeling I was always, still a little, unsatisfied. I was like, I should be working out more. I should be. Then I look at those pictures and I'm like, damn it. Why didn't I enjoy it then? It was.
And I was like, so I'll be able to do this forever. I was sort of the opposite. I was pretty pleased. But again, that was a period of my life, about 20 years or so, where I had nothing to do but work out and concentrate on it. So no, I mean, I don't have kids. I don't have, you guys are, in a different place. So I could work really hard on it. So I was like, I can do. And now it's like, I'm wondering, is it ever? And I'm, only about 8-10 years older, but now I have to take, certain medications every morning for things.
Yes.
And it's like,
Yes.
Oh, that's gonna, that makes it harder to take the weight off. And it's like, well, I don't want that. I don't want this.
I know.
Where's the magic? I know there is magic. It's called Ozempic at this point, apparently.
Exactly. I was going to say that is the magic.
I can't get it. They're like, you're not diabetic enough and you're not fat enough. It's like, well, I will work on both of them.
You're not enough. Mike, you're not enough.
I've never been enough.
Damn it.
At least I'm not enough negative things now.
Yeah. Even your doctor is telling you that, right?
They won't prescribe you Ozempic because you're not heavy enough?
I've heard, yes, I and other like close friends have had the situation. My dad was adult onset diabetes, and like I definitely can feel I have like if I eat too much sugar, I can feel like that's not like the old days where I could just power it down, but I don't. So I have blood sugar like regulation issues, right. But they're not going to give me Ozempic for that. So that's what I've heard.
It's I don't know. I've heard mixed things about it, but let's talk about some more fun stuff.
Listen, I'm not sure I have an hour's worth of memories of the 90s, frankly. Certainly not family friendly. But let's see what happens. Let's start talking. And
by the way, that's like the 90s is where we start, but we end up going off of every different tangent.
I'd like to start back in Chicago because I know you were talking about how you were in a theater company. Jeremy Piven's parents had a theater company, and John Cusack was in it with you, and Second City. So take us back to Chicago and how you started.
I grew up in Evanston, Illinois, that's where John Cusack and Jeremy Piven and Steve Pink, who came up with them and is now a director. He directed Hot Tub Time Machine, and we were all the same class. Well, Jeremy Piven was 1 year older, but John and Steve and I and some other people were the same class of '84. Oh my God. And the Jeremy's parents were sort of very well known theater people in Chicago, Joyce and Bern Piven, and they had a workshop, a like class and a little school for young people, and like everyone sort of from my era took classes there at the Piven Theater Workshop, and then they had like a junior company for like middle schoolers, and then a young people's company where they would do shows. Like I sort of moved on to high school to do plays and didn't really go much further, but I did take classes in middle school there, and I feel like got a really good grounding on like improv and just performance in general.
And then Second City started when? Because we've had a lot of guests. We just interviewed Richard Kind. We had Bonnie Hunt. The greatest comedic minds came out of Second City.
Well, if you were from my era, and I think probably still to this day, if you were, a comic performer, actor growing up in Chicago, you wanted to train. That was aspirational. Like, first of all, the lion's share of SNL cast for a long time sort of came out of Second City. So I took that training when I got to college. The dean of our theater department, Sheldon Patinkin, was a former Second City performer from with Alan Arkin in the 50s. And he got me a scholarship to go to the classes for free. And then you go through 5 8-week sessions, level 1, level 2, and so on. And in level 5, you do a show, like a comedy and improv review with your class. And so you get to get up. And that training was amazing and invaluable. And I definitely feel like it set me up to then come out to LA and be like 22, but like really like young. Like I was reading to play 14, 15 when my first year.
Is that true?
Yeah. I was not like last week.
No. But that you were immediately auditioning for the younger. I forgot that's what we did too. Like in our 20s, we were auditioning for teenagers.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I felt like I had I was auditioning against for real 14-year-olds who maybe the extent of their training was their parents had gotten them headshots. I'd been training as an actor. I had my equity card. I'd done an equity play in Chicago theater, and I'd done all the Second City training and a ton of plays and everything. like a TJ Hooker came through Chicago and I was in that. And there was
hell yeah. You got a TJ Hooker. Yes. Shatner.
William Shatner, great performer. I'm sure, I'm told. I mean, I didn't.
You didn't cross paths?
I remember his lines. He had this line like, because me and this other kid who I went to high school with, we played like drug addicts, like, but like badly written. And it was like, he finally catches us and he's like, my friend, I'm already dead. I get shot. We try to rob a liquor store and I get blasted in the back with a shotgun and somehow keep running. And then I die in the car. And then Shatner eventually pulls us over. And my friend's like, he needed a fix. And Shatner's line was like, you need a fix. He's fixed for good now, isn't he? Like 30 takes. Like,
no. Stop.
It was hilarious. And he had a point back then.
That was the right. Oh, man. That must...
Your first acting role on camera, you get shot in the back and killed?
One of the first. I think I'd done Crime Story before that, which was a Dennis Farina series that shot in Chicago. But yeah, it was one of the first jobs.
Oh, man. Do you have that somewhere? Do you have a...
It exists somewhere.
Oh, man. We got to find that.
Mike, who was at Second City when you were there around that time? Because I mean, any given year, like there's.
Oh my gosh! I mean, Bonnie Hunt was sort of around there. She's a little older than me, but she was like in the. Richard Kind was on the main stage at that time.
Yep.
Joel Murray, I think. But there was also there was Second City, and then there was like Improv Olympic. Or and Annoyance Theater. These three. Annoyance Theater did the Real Life Brady Bunch, which I just realized. Yes. Andy Richter came out of there, and
yes,
a lot of people. The Soloway sisters were the ones who sort of created it. And then Improv Olympic was Del Close and Sharna Halpern, and they sort of perfected the Herald form, which was like a little improvised one-act play, and a lot of really talented people were spread out in these three areas. But Farley, I saw Farley on the main stage before.
Oh my goodness. Are you serious?
God.
He was so mind-blowingly like it's the best improvisers like and comedic sketch performers in Chicago, and he was still like boom, like Ohtani, like watching Ohtani play baseball. It's like, wow, this guy is so freaking good. Like
everyone says that. Yeah, he's on another level. And he did like the motivational speaker.
Yeah. I don't think that existed. He did something called Whale Boy, which was really freaking funny. But I'm not sure motivational speaker existed yet. I think that came out of SNL.
No.
Was that a Second City bit?
Bob Odenkirk wrote that for Farley at Second City, and they performed it on the main stage for a long time. And then Farley tried to pitch it over and over and over again. To Lorne Michaels,
right?
And they finally got it on, and I think it's one of the greatest sketches ever.
Funny. I think Christina Applegate just told she was in the first.
Exactly. Oh God, where they're busting up, right? Isn't that one
TikTok or something of her describing?
They cannot. Yes.
So I don't have any more information, but go check that out, people.
Just the way he pulls his pants up.
Was it Matt Foley, right?
Oh yes, yes, exactly.
Living in a van down by the river.
Exactly. Government cheese, the whole thing.
Did you gravitate towards comedy naturally? Like, were you a fan of funny TV or films, or was it natural for you?
Definitely think so. Like in terms of like what I liked, like sensibility wise, entertainment wise, I liked comedy and action. Like I also just a regular boy. I liked action movies and comedies, for the most part. And then like I found myself like through high school, I had the most success in comedies. I did Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead, which is a very funny play by Tom Stoppard, and got a lot of laughs. I had the part again. There's a part. It's like a traveling troupe of. It's hard to explain, but suffice it to say, I was a character who was in a dress for a certain amount of time, and of course, that was considered very funny back then. No matter the moment you put it on, it was like. So I got a lot of good like response from the comedy in that, and then I did Comedy of Errors the next year, and I didn't have one of the two twins roles, but I had a role that like I made the most of it, and like I definitely think. And then I'd done Piven, which was generally gravitates like leans comedic. And then I wanted to do Second City, and then went on to, so yeah, I definitely, and I always, the dream, one of the reasons, and we'll get to this later, I'm sure I left Blossom to ultimately go right for Conan, was I wanted to be like Monty Python. Or Kids in the Hall. And I just
Kids in the Hall. You introduced me to Kids in the Hall.
They're hilarious. Like I always thought like sketch comedy, like being in a troupe where you write and perform your own stuff was my calling. And it didn't ever happen, but like that was sort of the whole, like from 18 or so on, like the focus was on that idea. Like,
So where did Blossom fall into this? What, like along the way, you come to LA, right. you get your TJ Hooker, you started doing.
I assume all my union cards. I had just done an equity play at Wisdom Bridge Theater, which at that time was sort of like one of the better theater companies in Chicago. So I had all this confidence. I got very well reviewed. Fortunate in that respect. And I come to LA. And it's like 89, 90, somewhere right at the very beginning of the 90s. And I'm there. I had already met with an agent like the year before. And I was like, I'm going to do this play. And then I want to come. And they're like, okay. And then so I get there. And I'm sitting down and the headshots. Oh, you need new headshots. They say that to every single soul that ever, like the first second you get to LA. It's like, well, throw those out. So she's going through, and she says to me, now you might not get a job your first year. And I was just like, look, have you never met anyone from Chicago? We think it's the greatest city. Like we're like Paris. What do they have? Like if I don't get a job like in a month, I'm going back to Chicago.
Going back to Chicago
and like do Second City and plays and stuff and like come out of there. So that, and I ended up fortunate. Like I had a very good sort of first season. I got there late, like late February, March. So I still got myself to network on a few pilots, and I did things.
Yeah, for our listeners, its pilot season is January through April, basically, right?
Yeah, right. It used to be, yeah.
Right, yeah, in the days when pilot season existed.
Yes,
so, yeah,
right.
So I ended up going to network, which, again, for the people, that's the very last step. Back then, they would you get to the final audition and it's like, you're going to network, we're going to negotiate your contract. It's as if you have the freaking job, except as if you,
it's like in your hands.
Have the job.
Yeah, you can taste it.
Like, then you're all there that day. Like I
looking at each other
against Brad Pitt, like at one point, and it was like, and so anyway, so yeah, I managed to go to network on a few things, and I had nice guest star roles on Quantum Leap and Empty Nest. So all things considered, especially apparently for what my agent thought, I had a great first year. And then I got Empty Nest, which was also a Whit Thomas show, and they did Blossom. I got that early the next year, like January. And so they knew they were developing this Mayim Bialik show, and they, let's face it, I look a little bit like her. Let's, between you, me, and everyone else at this point. So they were like, we want you to come and read for this pilot we're doing with Mayim Bialik from Beaches. And I was like, oh, well, freak, I love her. That's great. I would love to be a part of this. But so I ended up getting that, like, in the midst of shooting Empty Nest, like, by the tape day, I think I had the pilot. So I didn't get to audition for any other pilots that year, but that's fine. But, like, so I got a pilot like at the end of my first year, and then that was sort of the story. And then I didn't even privileged, like I guess arrogant person. I didn't even realize till years later, like, man, that was
mind blowing. That is
like it went so freaking well, and I just took it for granted.
Yeah, this is easy. This business is easy.
Like, oh, this is the first of many series I will star in, and this is I am a guy.
Oh, man. I think I did. I say it all the time, but I think I'm the queen of failed pilots. Like, I just am I'm a pilot. Like, I'm a series killer. And I like 13 failed pilots.
People like
yes, people like me. I am terrible. Like, all I wanted was to get a show on the air, and it just never happened.
Like, I honestly only ended up in a few more pilots after that. And then, I had a lot of recurring roles that at 90210 was sort of the most significant.
No, let's stay with. We have way more to talk about the Blossom.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying. But I did not end up being a series regular from the get go on a lot more, for whatever reason. I think happenstance. The industry says lack of talent. Who's to
Oh,
decide?
stop.
Who knows?
Did you read with Mayim for when you got the, like, was that your audition? Was it with her right away?
I don't think I read with Mayim. I did not meet Mayim until the read through.
Wow.
That, so yeah. But I know she and her mom tell a story that they saw me on Empty Nest and they thought like, oh, he's great. But I'm by the time that aired, I'm pretty sure I was already cast. But it's still very nice that like they saw me on and then were like, oh, he'd be great. I hope it's him. And it was. You know
what? When I auditioned for Blossom at the end of the first season, I had just done this 90210, my first episode on 90210. And I did read with Mayim, and she and Jenna were like giggling, and they were like huge 90210 fans. And I'm pretty sure that I got Blossom because of my role on 90210. But
yeah,
listen, Blossom and Don Rio, the creator, who's, I mean, honestly, still to this day, one of the classiest, most talented people we've ever worked with. He creates a show about a teenage girl as the lead, which really, I mean, maybe Punky Brewster, but really hadn't been done successfully.
Right. In the original pilot, it was just a much more standard family. There was a mom and a dad, Richard Masser and Barry Youngfellow, I think, were the mom and dad. But then they tinkered with it. Well, it got picked up to be a mid-season replacement. So, like, Confidence was not like soaring like at the network or amongst obviously the producers, but they did know enough to like make it more unique and more its own show. So they brought Ted Wass in to play the single dad, which was a great move. And like, they made a lot of smart decisions. And I think that, the first season, it was like we had an order of 7. And it was like, you might get on, when it's a mid-season, they're like, you're just, when one of these things like just like craters, we're going to have to put something in for a couple weeks. It's going to be you. Congratulations. Welcome to Hollywood.
Yeah, you guys are working. The show's floating in limbo. You're like, we're doing all these episodes.
Anyone's ever going to see it. But we had an order of 7. And then ordinarily it's like, they're like, oh, we picked up your back to fill out the order of 13, 6 more episodes. But they picked us up for like 2 more. And
interesting.
Then 1 more. They were like, we're really
figuring this out.
It's like putting it on at this point. Like, so it was really slow to develop. But again, I think that served us well. And I think we benefited by being sort of an underdog and like started attracting attention right away. Joey, Mayim is Mayim, and she's brilliant and like from the get-go. But then Joey started to sort of like break out, and I just think it really, by the time second season, in the second season pretty early, I think we did what's the Madonna documentary that was popular at the time? We did the sort of parody of that.
That was so good.
That really put us, people started to take notice, I think, at that point.
I mean, it was Blossom on Monday nights at 8:00 and Fresh Prince of Bel-Air at 8:30. And that hour, I know it was a top 20 show the whole time I was there.
Yeah, and back in those days, that was like an obscene, like, because there were only 3 or 4 networks. I guess 4 or 5, because Warner Brothers, I think, was then becoming sort of a mini network. But there was, now there's 100 content creators, like, so the numbers are all much smaller. Like, my wedding episode, like 30 million people watched, which is like a crazy number. Like,
it doesn't happen.
They made it like number 9 on the week or something that week.
Well, Mayim said, which I didn't realize because I think of Blossom, I always thought of it as a hit show because it was on. And Mayim's like, we were never top 10. We were always lingering. We stuck around. We had our fan base, but we were top 20. Like we were somewhere from 10 to 20 for most of it.
That's plenty good. But as far as the network and the sponsors are concerned, that's
right.
Especially if you're in the 15 to 25 overall. But like the massive majority of your audience is young. Like, that's what they care about.
Right.
That's what they want to make commercials for. So,
Mike, I remember being absolutely terrified my first episode. Paul Witt and Tony Thomas were, legendary producers. But I remember Paul was always in like a 3-piece suit. roaming around. And I was just like, oh, every time he would pass me, my heart would like palpitate.
Yeah, he was a scary guy. I mean, they're both brilliant producers, but performing for him was intimidating for sure.
Yeah,
so,
and the run throughs. I mean, Christine did a guest star. Christine, tell Mike about the episode. That you did.
I did it was a small guest star role too. It was it was one of my first jobs when I moved to LA right after David and I finished our show. And so it was like maybe second or third
was this
guest
before
star.
Before Vinny? So David wasn't.
No, David was on.
I was there, but we were kind of in a little feud between the two of us.
Yeah,
I've apologized for this.
My running joke is David was horribly mean to me the whole week of being there. He just wouldn't speak to me. Well, but it was fine.
I have some information, but I don't know that.
I'm so sorry for that.
We'll say he was a little bit heartbroken. I think to be fair. I don't think I know, but we can leave it there. But
and I've since apologized as well.
Feelings for you at the time.
Yeah,
we're still best friends, so it's all good.
We've made all of our amends.
Was I'll start crying right now.
Oh no! I was just thinking to myself, like, you were probably so bummed when I got cast on that show. No. You were probably like, God damn it! Can they have cast someone else?
Again, I've clearly overstepped. David's going to be like, "Why'd you?" He's going to call me and be like, "Why'd you do that? Why'd you say that?" It's like you said.
Okay, she knows, but I think she did an episode where Ted and Joey were like both vying for her, right?
It was all of my stuff was with it was like a father-son. It was like in a restaurant and there was a pool table and I was their waitress. I was like Sally the waitress and they were both kind of flirting with me and kind of like, I know
at this point.
I don't, possibly, but I think it was that they were like in competition with each other. And then ultimately they both were off-putting to me. I guess I don't remember the storyline, but I had nothing to do with with you or Mayim or David. It was just all of our stuff was in this one, restaurant pool hall, as I remember. I know there was a pool table involved.
Right.
Were you intimidated at the
It was hard. Yes. We've talked about this. Being a guest star on a show, there's nothing worse. I mean, you feel so great to get it, but you're coming into like a well-oiled machine and you are just...
Also a show with a live audience where you're doing basically a play. Like if that's not what your training is, or you don't have a lot of experience with that, that's a whole nother level of something to freak out about.
For sure. I think I had done a Saved by the Bell prior. So that was my first because our show, Hey Dude, was multi-camera, but no audience.
Right.
It was outdoors and no laugh, nothing.
That's so good though.
Yeah, no, it is. And you realize how much, and by the way, when you're doing it multiple times, eventually the audience is not going to laugh anymore because they know the joke. So it's hard for you to even sort of sell it. Right. But you're living in constant fear.
Because they'd be like, we got to write a new joke. Your joke's not working anymore. It's like, that's not my fault. I did it the first 5 times and they laughed.
That's it. You're sad.
But you still always take it personal, goddamn. And another thing, coming from a place of live theater, but not on camera, the timing, it's not just the natural, organic. You have to wait for the camera to get on you. There's a hitch to the timing.
You're right. You're right.
Super naturalistic. It's another thing you got to learn. And
Mike, I told you we had Richard Kind on last week, and he said he worked with 2 legends, Carol Burnett and Michael J. Fox.
Right.
He said Carol Burnett could play the audience in front of her and the camera. Wow, Michael J. Fox only played the camera,
but he needed the audience for timing, for the laughs.
Interesting. When you're doing a sitcom, you have to be aware of the few hundred people in front of you, but then those 4 cameras, that's going out to millions.
It's not the same timing if you were doing the 22-minute episode as a 1-act play, just in a live theater. The timing would be different. You wouldn't, So,
and you can see that red light go on the camera when it comes
exactly.
to you.
Or you get a feel for it anyway with a little experience.
Dude, you were so good and so comfortable, and your timing was you were like a surgeon. I remember just being so in awe of you. and everybody on that show.
My mom actually wanted me to be an actual surgeon, so she'll be happy to hear this.
Tell her mom I'm a comedic surgeon.
I was, for a minute, like a surgeon.
Like a surgeon.
Exactly.
Joey did become like a serious teen star, and it was Mayim's show. And I know that like he got his music videos on there, and there were moments of tension between, this is her show, but he's trying. I don't know what it was.
I think that happens a lot, and not just amongst younger people on shows. Like, if someone breaks like that, but the show was, like we were just talking about Michael J. Fox, like Family Ties was supposed to be like Meredith Baxter Birney's show. And then like by episode 2, they're like, this kid's going to be a giant freaking star. Like, but she brilliantly actually in her contract was like, I am to be the highest paid person on this show always and forever.
No matter what.
Which ended up being, they probably just threw that in, but
as she should. I mean, the show it's her show.
Right. Exactly. But I think it happens that like, a character becomes popular, and admittedly, it caused some friction, but it wasn't like ruinous, and it wasn't like,
right.
Like hellfire on the set, like day in and day out.
Oh,
like,
no, not at all.
It was at times a little uncomfortable, I would say, but it wasn't like, oh, this is a nightmare. Like
I remember Joey wanted to shoot his music video in a dream sequence on the show.
That was,
and it was like, time out, day's over, everyone go home. We're going to figure this out.
Right.
Just stuff like that. I mean, and it's, Mayim and Joey were kids, right? So it was probably their representatives dealing with this stuff. But
exactly.
Yeah.
And then, the Bill Bixby thing, Christine, Don Rio's best friend was Bill Bixby, and he directed
the episode I did. Yes.
Right.
Okay.
In fact,
a lot of them the first couple.
Yes.
Seasons.
Yeah. We yes.
Their principal director.
Yeah. For our audience, Bill Bixby played the Incredible Hulk, along with a legendary career, but he was dying of cancer while he was directing us, and Don felt that he couldn't let him go. Because it was like his purpose, and he was literally directing from like a bed, right, Mike? He was really at the end of his days.
He was infirm. He was definitely in pain. He was definitely sort of late stage, and but I don't recall ever a bed. But he had mobility issues. He couldn't get around very well. It was. I understand what Don did, and like it was definitely. It was trying, and like I was very young at the time, and like really sort of inexperienced with that sort of thing. So I suppose looking back, I may not have. I don't know how I handled it, well or not. But it was definitely sad. It was like the set would be tinged with some sadness because someone was passing sort of before your eyes while we were in production. So. And he was a really, really nice man, and truly an actor's director. Like I don't know. I probably because he was like, just do it. Yeah, great. Like those were my notes. So I was like, I loved him.
Exactly.
And then there were much lighter times. I will say also that Mike and I would go back to his house. In the Hollywood Hills after every run through and chill out on his balcony, smoke a joint, and just kind of reflect on the day. I mean, almost every day for the 3 seasons I was there.
It's true. We can admit that. But also, we spent a lot of time at your house, your bachelor pad. This kid was like Entourage come to life. Like every sort of, like he had a drama, he had a turtle, like all his friends from like Long Island.
I definitely knew a couple of them for sure. Yes.
It's funny.
It was me, Doug Ellen, Cliff Dorfman.
Speaking of Entourage, there's got to be. I mean, I think he drew.
Yeah, right. Seriously, where did Entourage come from? That was like our life.
He owes you a check, is what I'm saying. Listening out there.
I'll call Doug and ask him.
Exactly. That's going to be a hard no on that, I'm guessing. Yeah.
just want to talk about the 4 weeks in Paris. You know, Christine, we got a call after hiatus. We're going to do a 2-hour movie for NBC, a Blossom movie. You're going to Paris for 4 weeks.
Yeah, amazing. Just amazing.
And
it was a lot of sitcoms did that at the time, Paris or London or somewhere.
Yes, like, exotic locations. Exotic location.
I think went to London. Other people went to Paris. Don laid the groundwork very early by having our estranged mother. She was like a lounge singer in Paris. So he knew he wanted it to get us there, I think, all along. When I think it's like actually we were in the lobby of the hotel and he was like, don't ever say I never took you anywhere. I was like, good point. Solid line. I mean,
Christine, we stayed
at an amazing hotel in Paris.
Hotel Lutetia. We filmed on the Seine. I mean, it was like literally like a dream, like out of a novel or something.
It was great. It was a great time.
Amazing. So then you're in season what when you make a decision to take another job?
Well, I mean, you know, traditionally after a few seasons, after 3 seasons, I guess traditionally, if the show is popular and a hit, people are afforded the opportunity to renegotiate. And like some people were, I'm sure. But some people weren't, and I was one of the weren't people. And like, so I started to feel a little disenchanted and a little like sort of like underappreciated. And I don't think I was alone in that, but that's other people's story to tell. So, and I knew, you know, again, this like sort of like I had some chops, limited, I would say, compared, I think, to my ability as an actor. As a writer, and like some friends of mine had started to have some success. Actually, you know, I was good friends with Andy Dick in college, and like by this time, the Ben Stiller show had already been on, and they won the Emmy. And like my friend Dino was one of the writers, and like he had gone on to write at Conan O'Brien.
Okay.
Like at the very start, like they were like, you know, we've hired this giant redheaded unknown to replace. You know,
I remember when they announced it. Everyone was like, "Oh, he's a writer from The Simpsons, right?"
It's brilliantly funny. I mean, I could see him how he could do it in the room, like win over. But yeah, so he was at the very beginning of that, and like I was, they were writing promos, and I was like, "Can I try and write a few?" And I wrote a few. And then he was like, "Oh, Robert Smigel, who was the first head writer and executive producer on the show." They were like, they were going to make a few of yours. One of them was really hacky and about like Amish people. Like Amish people jokes are like, you know, we did it. So like, I was one of the first people to have produced material for, and I wasn't, you know. But then my friend Dino got my submission packet ideas seen by Robert to the level where they were like, "Well, do you want to come out on your hiatus and like work for half a cycle?" A cycle for writers is generally 13 weeks. You get hired for 13 weeks on shows generally. So I went out and had like summer school basically and worked on the show like between seasons 3 and 4, I think, of Blossom. And like at the end of that, it went, I would say mixed results. I had some spectacular failures. And then I did a few things that ended up being smart. Like I created DirecTV was brand new at that point. And I was like, Conan should have like a satellite dish. And he goes through he looks at what's new on his satellite. And if we can just do a bunch of bits, like crazy channels and, you know. So anyway, that became a bit that got refilled.
Oh, I remember that bit. It was so funny. So I remember.
Again, that was sort of the one that I think is what propelled Robert to be like, "Hey, you know, if you want to come back, we will hire you."
That's so cool, man. Which is a better feeling, getting a laugh as a performer or getting a sketch on the air on Conan?
Getting a laugh as a performer. I will always be a performer at heart. Like that's something that, you know, I feed off of, in that it's really great to like have written something, created something with your mind and get it to a produced point and see that it works. And like, you know, but again, I always thought like, with Kids in the Hall, Monty Python being sort of the goal, the idea, I was a stronger performer than I was a writer. I was adequate. And like my talent in terms of shows like Conan O'Brien I was very good in the room. Like, oh, we got to do like creating jokes for bits that already existed. Like, oh, we're doing another year 2000. Everyone write a bunch of year 2000s. Like, I was better at that than like creating brand new bits. And like, that I always would say to my friend Dino and anyone else, basically, with a lot of like genuine, real writing talent, it's like, I feel like Salieri around you, like from Amadeus, from Mozart. Like, I read your stuff and I'm like, how come my stuff doesn't leap off the page like this? Why am I see the ability, but I can only see it. I can't create it. So that's how I felt about writing just generally. But I was fortunate then later to get a screenplay credit on something I was really proud of, that actually I worked with Jennifer Elise Cox, a friend of yours, the Space Station
God.
77.
Amazing. She
might have actually changed to 76. I don't. But
she's one of the funniest.
Oh, she is hilarious.
Brilliant
she
human
was
beings. Jan
Brady, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And we did at the very end of the 90s, early 2000s, I think we did it as we built this thing out of improv, and like me and her and Kali Roche and Sam Pancake and Jack Plotnick, we did the show at the HBO Workspace, which was this great venue. They had Mr. Show used to do stuff there to work up material. HBO used to have this workspace where you could do plays, basically, like and like sketch comedians and like things like our thing, Space Station 76, would like work there, and we performed it there, and like people loved it, and like it was so fun.
Where was the space? Was it in Hollywood?
It was right over by Renmar, like Cahuenga and like Willoughby, like that.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Yep.
Wilcox or somewhere in that
yes
vicinity. But it was fun. It was a lot of fun. And then eventually, Jack wrote it into a screenplay, and they made the movie with Patrick Wilson and Liv Tyler and a bunch of other people. And
amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Can we skip to the Dana Carvey show, because Michael was a writer on a show called The Dana Carvey Show, which is probably the most legendary group of comedic writers ever assembled. There's a documentary on this.
The documentary is incredible.
Talent-packed, spectacular failure of all time. Probably. Like, and I'm on the outside looking in at this. Just to bring it around. Like, so that after season 4 of Blossom, it felt like, and again, for no fault of anyone's, it's just how the business is run. They weren't going to do anything to alter my original contract. And I was like, I'm sorry. I would rather honestly go do this thing for way, way less money, and like, whether that was a smart or regrettable move is who can say, but like, that's just how I felt. And I ended up going to Conan. I left season 5 after half a season and went to write permanently in New York at 30 Rock for Conan O'Brien. And so I did that for about 6 or 8 months. Then I think I came back to LA and did 90210. And then Robert Smigel had called and been like, Dana's doing his own show. Do you want to be a writer on it? And I was like, yes, of course. So that's the sort of progression. And Dana Carvey show, we're looking, I remember watching audition tapes, and we're like, here's this guy, never heard of him, his name's Steve Carell, what do you think? I was like, hire him. Like,
no way.
I know.
Like 5 minutes of stuff, and like his stuff, he was the number one, the person who was like, I mean, we're literally insane if we don't hire him. He's freaking great.
Wait, so like, what was his audition? Was he doing like?
The one thing I remember is he did this thing where I won't be able to replicate it, but he did this thing where he was like do this, like you start to tell a story to him, and he's like the guy who like jumps in on the story and then finishes it for you, and then like, I can't do it the way he did it though. He's like, you're talking about going to this video, you want to do it? He's the gorillas? And they're like, hilarious. And it was like, this guy's great. And then so Carell and Colbert are the two, and then they went on to Daily Show, and then I think they did more stuff after the Daily Show. I'm not quite sure, but they're really, really. I mean, this was the ensemble cast, and then the writers' room was like just a slugger's row of like a brilliant writers. I mean,
just tell us. Louis C.K. was the head writer.
Okay, Louis C.K. was the head writer. Robert Smigel was, of course, a writer and producer. He wrote a lot of stuff. Bob Odenkirk had Mr. Show at the time, but he was good friends with Smigel from their days at SNL. So he came in and wrote some stuff for several weeks. Charlie Kaufman was a staff writer. He was literally working on Being John Malkovich at the time.
It's so insane.
Like, sort of on the side. And so, an Academy Award-winning writer was there. Dino Stamatopoulos, who's great in his own right. He had several shows on the
I remember Dino.
Adult Swim. He has a lot of.
And Christine, Ben probably knows a lot of these people.
He knows
Dino, he knows Dino's, Robert Smigel, Bob Odenkirk, all of them. Obviously, Robert Smigel, we should say, is famously Triumph the Insult comic.
The Insult comic dog.
Yes, just for our listeners,
right.
When for frame of reference,
he created the super fans, the Bears.
Oh, yes. And Smigel was a good friend of that Adam Sandler, so he's kind of.
Yes,
I did a scene with him in The Wedding Singer, and he kind of appears in Adam's movies too. And so,
he's got a little part in most of his movies.
Almost all of them. Yes. But you were with literally the heaviest hitters of comedy writers in all of show business.
And then how they got it so right, Carell and Colbert were not known entities. They were unknowns. To get it that right to hit, that's just unheard of. It's like not like the Friends, a little bit like the Friends cast, but it's where you get Seinfeld might be a good example. Wow, how did you get, or what's a great example? Parks and Rec. With Aubrey Plaza and Chris Pratt and
yes.
Nick Offerman, it's you got it so right at every turn with these then unknown.
Every character, yes, exactly.
Giant stars now.
Right.
We had all those people, even the writers, Robert Carlock, who then went on to create Kimmy Schmidt with Ellie Kemper, and John Glazer, who's very, very popular, very, very funny, very talented.
Yes, so funny, actor. So funny. Yes.
It's just everyone on that show, top to bottom.
What went wrong? What is because I watched the documentary and it's just it's the stories. I mean, it's a fascinating study, right?
Tell the story
very
of that.
heavy, and then they paired it with their most sort of milk toasty Midwestern values, classic family sitcom. And you saw on the documentary, the funniest part is the twin promo ABC did, where it's tonight on Home Improvement, and it's Jonathan Taylor Thomas has a brush with molestation or something, and it's super dramatic, and then it's and then on the Taco Bell Dana Carvey show, it's
exactly
nipples milking a breastfeeding a kitten. I was this is not gonna the best in the documentary is everyone's reaction, Colbert's reaction to that. And Smigel being as soon as I saw that, I knew we were over. We were canceled immediately. And we basically were. We only aired 2 episodes and we made 6.
Crazy. Yeah. But what an experience. I mean, amazing. It's pretty epic.
Wild times. Wild times in the 90s, people. That is
wild times.
On point right now.
Tell us about The Dark Knight. I mean, working with Christopher Nolan.
Dark Knight was amazing. We're past the 90s at this point, but I read for it, and they write you a completely different scene where you don't have a clown mask on and you're not going to die in 1 minute and 10 seconds into the movie. My friends were all dude, you're in Dark Knight. Why? Why? So we do the scene for on tape. I was actually the only person who got cast and never went in front of Nolan to read it. They showed him my tape, and then they cast the rest, because it's shot in Chicago. They cast the rest of the clown bank robbers in a live audition with him. So yeah. But that was a great experience.
Oh man!
I go back to my hometown and shoot a Batman movie, and I loved. Batman Begins had already been out, and I was that's the best Batman movie so far, for sure.
So good.
So to be in the second one, and then Heath, of course, playing the Joker.
Oh my God.
What a sweet guy. I didn't get to spend that much time with him, but he was just this sweet, introverted guy. He was one of those people who you would never guess he was mind-blowingly talented as an actor if you spent a few minutes with him, the person, because he's just quiet, and
unassuming, right? Totally unassuming.
His performing is just atomic. So it was just a real privilege to be in that movie in any way, shape, or form. So I love that. And as it's one of the most popular movies ever made, I still see a fair amount of money from it. So like,
very nice. Very nice. Well, I hope to see this reunion of you two together potentially back again.
You should come to Sugarfish.
Yes.
You'll see it like.
Well, no,
I'm out here.
Mike, she's talking about Mayim came on our show
Right.
9 months ago and said, Don and I have a script for a new Blossom show. Right. And she said, I wanted to come on your show and as a safe space, ask you if you want to be involved. We really have a great script. And so just for our listeners, there might be some exciting news. We don't know. We've
no, that would obviously, that would be, I auditioned for a Jeff Garland something project like 10 years ago or so. And it was in Chicago. And I just decided at one point to be like, well, listen, it was like for a series regular. And I was like, well, I have to tell you, I am very interested. And he burst out laughing. He was like, no one would get it. If you did that in LA, that would tank. And I was like, you're probably right. But I was like, same here. I have to say, based on what I'm hearing, I am very interested.
Very interested.
I will actually.
I think I said the same thing, right, Christine? I'm like, I
am very interested. So you got me. Stoyanov's in.
I love it.
All right. Well,
this was amazing. Thank you
fun.
so much for coming. You're awesome and so funny.
Another hour of 90s in me. So maybe down the road next year, a couple.
Part two. Always.
I will come back anytime you guys want.
This went fast, buddy. Thank you so much. I love you. I'll see you next week when I get back.
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure. I'll see you guys. Thank you.
He was so terrific, David. What a treat.
He cracks me up. Like, I love hanging with him because he's so freaking funny. I feel like he always, said that he's a performer at heart, but he's such a funny guy and clearly a talented writer. But I really mean it when I said I want to see him and more. Like, I hope the Blossom reunion happens, but I also hope to, he's just such a talented guy. And you're right. He made it so effortless on Blossom. It was so real. That's the thing I remember about Blossom is you really bought that family. And, it was just because he and Mayim had such great chemistry and he's just so good and talented. And you never know, like he had such a solid, training in Chicago. Yeah,
like all the heavy hitters.
He's so quick. His timing is, like I said, he's like a surgeon, and his sarcasm. And yeah, it just worked with Mayim and Joey, and then him just slicing through them. I'm hopeful. I mean, I speak to Mayim and to Don Rio, and they are very close. I can't make an announcement, but it's exciting. And I'll tell our audience because in case they didn't hear at the beginning, but we're in New York. I'm in New York for a very exciting reason that people will.
We're not going to speak about. So, right. But you'll know soon enough. We thanks for everybody for listening today because I'm going to cut David off there before he gives away too much.
I know I have such a big mouth, but stay tuned. Something really cool is coming, and have a great week, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe and give us 5 stars.
And please follow us on Instagram at HeyDude, the 90s Called. See you next time.